Welcome to the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. I'm your host, Ian Williams.
And I'm Sherrod Ledet.
And I'm Shawsay Price, and together we are the Brothers.
And we are privileged to bring you a special guest who's going to bring the influence. Let's get it.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Brothers in Influence podcast. We have the privilege of being in the presence of the esteemed Monica Lee. She has a Bachelor's of Science from Appalachian State in Communication Disorders. She is a Master in Speech Language Pathology from South Carolina State University. Masters of Library Science from North Carolina Central University. And Masters of Divinity from John Leland Center for Theological Studies. Monica Lee uses the power of information to reach others through creative content. Monica's works include contributions to the following: Faith of Our Founders, 100 Daily Devotionals to Inspire, Encourage, and Propel the Finer Woman, Purpose Pushers, The Journey of Discovering and Walking in Your Life's Purpose, Pretty, Paid, and Powerful, 40 Days to Empower the Woman Within, Speak Up, We Deserve to Be Heard, Stories of Being Black in America, Call to Intercede, Volume 1, back in January of 2022, and Sacred Sistering, a devotional for women of color ministry leaders, also published in March 2022. Lenten Devotionals, The Road to Calvary, Surviving a Season of Suffering, and recipient science. How do we say that, sis? Recipients. Okay, I'm gonna have to add them to my vocabulary. A Lenten devotional for dismantling white supremacy. Having had 3 editions, most recently updated in 2020. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Journey to Easter. She published her first poetry collection, No More Hashtags, Remembrance and Reflections, in 2018. I should have pulled that off the shelf. And then No More Hashtags, Who You Calling, in 2019. And for her namesake in 2021. Her work appeared in the Maryland Bard's Poetry Review in 2020. You can learn more about Monica. Following this interview, we're going to post links, but at M.Link Poetry on all social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have my sister, Monica Lee. How you doing, sis?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here with you and be a part of your podcast.
Yes, ma'am. As someone I know is incredibly busy, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Yes, it's a beautiful day here. How is the weather out there?
The weather has been rainy this week, and temperature dropped a little bit last night, but overall it's good compared to some of the fluctuating wintry weather we had gotten before coming into 2023. So
yeah, I hear you. It's really been up and down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as we kind of get started with the conversation, I usually like to kind of jump off with some sort of an exclusive. Now, I know you're published, you're a speaker, people know your name and the amazing work that you're doing, where you are. So one of the things I ask is, tell us something about you that most people don't know.
Something most people don't know probably is that I'm really introverted. So I operate probably as an ambivert. So kind of flexing one foot here, one foot there. So when I show up, you see the full of life person that's okay, engaging. What's up? How are you? What's going on? But after the fact, I'm out for 3 hours. I'm out for the count. Take the phone, put the phone on mute, don't disturb, unplug the landline. Look, the laptop is down, unplugged, nothing.
Yeah.
Me and my space and maybe my journal and pens, and I'm good. So I think that's something that most people may not know.
They may not pick up on it right away. Right?
No, not right away.
And there's a lot of nuance and power to being aware of how you're wired in that sense, right? How have you navigated that as a speaker, author? It's just a person of influence.
So I think early on in the ministry aspect of life, and having served as my father's youth pastor in North Carolina for a number of years, starting in ministry and trying to figure it all out, it was just like, oh, I've got to engage with people. I actually have to have conversations that people are actually going to ask me questions about my message, or they're going to ask me questions about a lesson, and making myself available. So I had to prepare myself for that, because that's a different, space, a different mode of like being present and engaged. So making sure that I'm really rested. Rest is a thing. It's a needful thing. It's a necessary thing. Getting the steps in, getting the exercise in is a necessary thing. Being hydrated is a necessary thing. So you're not up in the pulpit about to pass out because because you just did not drink enough water. So all of those, even those little things added up to my ability to say, okay, I'm here, I'm present, I'm listening, I hear you. And not just that I hear you, but I see you, especially when it comes to working with children and young adults. A lot of times they feel kind of left out or pushed to the side as if their presence is not being acknowledged or heard. I came up kind of in that generation where, people, said about kids, about being seen and not heard.
Right.
So when you're working with kids, and young adults, they need to have someone who is present, someone who sees them, someone who is intentional about knowing them as individuals, as persons, and helping them navigate and walk those spaces of their faith journey, their personal journey, and be there for them. So I had to show up as fully present, and I can't show up tired, sleepy, no energy, funky attitude, or in my feelings, or that kind of thing. So there were those things that I needed to do with the water, the rest, the exercise, and change the diet, whatever, so that I could fully show up as my authentic self. And as my authentic self, kids are drawn to me, young adults are drawn to me. I can be in the salon and somebody want to stir up a conversation without even knowing me, or some kid sees me in Walmart and just starts waving. I don't know what it's like. I give off this teacher sense or this auntie mommy sense, but it's the finger wave, it's the hand wave, those kinds of things. So I think that's been a part of that process of kind of stepping out of what would normally be, I don't want to be bothered, leave me alone.
Sure, right. No, I identify as a fellow introvert, and I love how practical your insight on the matter is. You went straight to the exercise, staying hydrated, and what I hear is a theme of self-care, right? Mm-hmm. And it's rooted in self-awareness. And so on my journey, one of the things I've learned, and I've tried to help people, especially particularly young people, like the sooner you can be aware of how you're wired, the better, so that then you can lead yourself well. Mm-hmm. As I think that not only being children who are meant to be seen but not heard, even the intersectionality of whether you are naturally reserved or you're outgoing. I think that an introvert can go unheard by default to a degree, mm-hmm. and then they just kind of stay in that, like, oh, this is the way, it's the way this is. So I stay silent. I don't have a voice. I kind of have to go along with what's dictated for me. where, you know, and it's some hard lessons that come along with realizing that you have to really grow into asserting yourself and taking care of yourself so that you can show up as your best self in whatever space that you're called to show up in. So I really appreciate what you shared there, and I hope those of you that are listening really catch it. As you know, because people discover these things as adults, but the sooner you can discover the, you know, sorts of insights um, as a young person, the better for you.
I mean, what you said, the sooner you discover.
Mhm.
I mean, this whole life journey it's a process of discovery. You know, from identifying what you enjoy reading, or, you know, watching my young niece, what she enjoys, you know, playing with now as a 7-year-old versus when she was 3 or 4. You know what her artwork looks like now versus when, you know, she was even in kindergarten. Now she's a first grader, and now you see more detail, or that from writing, early writing, you know, all of the numbers or letters may have been reversed or in all different kinds of disorder, or her own order, so to speak. And now we've got, you know, these sentences, and now I've got a journal and I'm writing in my journal. Or that the fact that, oh, she sleeps with her Bible under her bed, and she's started that practice. And if you don't want to read it with me, I'll read it myself. Like, you know, kind of. So I'm watching her, you know, her journey, her process of becoming, so to speak. And I think that's a part of that awareness that, okay, now, I used to like big crayons, and now I like the finer crayons. Or
Right.
I used to, you know, have a fisted grip, and now I have a finer grip when I, you know, write with a pencil, or I, you know, color and fill in spaces with a marker. I used to color all outside the lines, and sometimes I still do color outside the lines. But now I color, you know, I'm able to color, or, you know, be within the line should I so choose. So I think all of those things are part of that awareness, and finding it out sooner saves some time.
Absolutely.
Because time is something, it's a value. It's a value. And it's not something that we get back. I mean, you know, one day you're celebrating your sweet 16, and the next day, oh my gosh, I've got to think about retirement planning, or I've got to think about being a caregiver for aging parents, or I've got to think about, you know, family dynamic, you know, changes in life. So time happens to us all. So we want to make the most of the time that we have. And so if we've got some time savers, then let's go for it. Let's apply these time savers. Let's get it, you know, earlier, so that we're not, you know, gray haired or white haired, and, you know, on the other side constantly looking back, or thinking back, or what could have been or should have been, or what we thought could be, but because we didn't take, you know, advantage of the time, or we didn't learn the lesson until way later.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So as someone with your background and with the journey that you've had as a ministry leader and, you know, author, very self-aware, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up? I think the problems that I see around me that seem to have no solution. That keeps me up. But it also drives me to say, okay, that's a big problem. I'm here in the DMV, not the Department of Motor Vehicles, but DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So in this area, you see so many problems. You see the issue of access. I mean, access to transportation. We've got the metro and everything, but there's some pockets or areas that don't have a metro stop. So you can't catch a train into the district to apply for that higher paying job or get that higher paying gig that would fits your qualifications because you can't access the transit. Or places in the DC area where it's a food desert. It's really a total food desert because, you have a liquor store on every corner or block in this particular community, but a regular grocery store, you got to have transit or whatever to drive out to a basic grocery store for things like fresh fruit and vegetables, or all of the things that they, that you can't get in a convenience store on the corner. So those are the kinds of things, that kind of thing, even access, educational access. There's always this constant fight between, public and charter schools and private schools. And, parents are constantly having to make decisions about, their children's, education. And that was more obvious during the pandemic, where you saw children who did not have stable Wi-Fi or connections. Okay, here, you've given me a laptop to take home, but I don't have access at home. I don't have Wi-Fi at home. What happens when the public library is closed and not open? Yeah. What happens when I can't sit in McDonald's all day because they've got, or any other fast food restaurant or restaurant all day independently without supervision because parents are working? So how am I going to navigate being in having to do this online educational space and I don't have it at home, or I don't have a place to go, or I don't have someone to watch me or supervise me and my learning during this process, or even if I am at home and have access, that my connection is not always stable. So we saw some of that within the pandemic. We're still, we are still seeing that, with the population of, homeless students, coming to school and having to, we're staying at the hotel this week. We got a room for this week, but next week we could be at the behind Walmart, or we may be in our car at night at the Target. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that keep me up at night, because I'm like, okay, what can be done that I have the resources or the connections or answers, to, in order to support, kids and families and, be a means or road of access. So it keeps you up. It keeps you up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. And thank you for sharing. I know that those can present themselves as big burdens. It's like the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I know that is not those are not the concerns of the average citizen. So I wonder, my mind kind of wonders. I'm like, when I try to tell my son, right, when you see a problem, more than likely it's because you're meant to address it, right? So, but when you're thinking about the sort of problems that you're bringing up that you see, that are clearly larger, they're bigger than you as an individual, how do you cope and manage with being able to see the issue, but not feeling like you can directly address it?
You lean on faith first and foremost. So, spending that time in prayer, spend that time, quiet time, and reading, your faith-based books. For me, that's the Bible. So I take that time and I'll say, okay, God, what about this? What is one thing that I can do? All right. Maybe it's all I need to do right now is give time. Okay. So maybe it's giving time to organizations that may be doing some of this work. So having, interned at a local nonprofit that helps people with transitional housing and seeing the model and seeing what they do, that gave me some, clicking ideas. I'm like, okay, it's possible, it's doable, it's manageable. This is a solution here. And with that, there's even more. But during that season, during that moment, okay, God, this is my time to serve and learn. So I use that time at this internship to learn, to engage with people who were going through this process of, transitioning from, homelessness to, having a place, a roof over their heads. So, having a building that had resources. Okay, this is where you go. We have for, the food bank, we have, the clothing closet. We have, these mental health resources, or we've got some coaches, life coaches lined up that are offering, or, their time to, for conversation so that you can be coached through this process, or have someone to talk to and schedule time with, so that you can walk through this journey, this process of moving in life. So I think I grew from that experience. I learned a lot, and then it gave me some resolve and peace. So it's not like I'm like, there are people doing this work,
Yeah.
and saying, okay, there's got to be, more, there are more people probably than not. And it's about, maybe it's about finding those people that are doing the work. And it's like, okay, I've got this idea. Maybe this matches up with what you're doing. Or maybe there's some way that I can support and contribute to what you're doing, whether it was with time, whether it's service, whether it's using my voice or platform to talk about it so that more people know about the work that you're doing. So that's giving me some resolve, giving me some peace, and helping me sleep a little bit better, knowing that, okay, I've had the opportunity to serve and be engaged and be involved, knowing that there's some other sources and organizations out there and people out there doing the work or answering some of the questions that I've asked. And then, just having conversations with people to find out, okay, how can we build partnership? What is something that I can do or be thinking about in the area that I am, given the influence in, and go from there.
Wow. Yeah, that is beautiful. As you were speaking, I hear several things. But one is that your faith dictates your pace. Because I could see, and I can see this because I struggle with it to a degree. Like, I don't even see, like, those things that you laid out. I'm not even sure if I lived in that area, if I would have seen all those things. But hearing you say it would have brought it to light, right? And so navigating those challenges, and seeing those problems for people in everyday life, I'd have to be very intentional not to feel despair.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so for you to say, I see these things and I immediately go to God, I immediately go to my word, and filter my experience, filter what I'm seeing and feeling through that. And I don't lean into my own understanding, and I don't sit with just my emotions, but I filter that through my faith as well. That's very powerful. And then you're also being very solution oriented. So while I may not be able to go change the world tomorrow, what steps can I take today? And I believe that's a very healthy. I would say it reminds me of a book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And I found that book later, having grown up in church, having been in ministry. I'm like, man, I needed this. I needed this well before now. So I just appreciate that. That's an example, not only for me, but I hope for other people who are hearing this and are seeing, the challenges that people are dealing with in everyday life, and just the nature of systemic issues. You see these big problems that are much larger than you as an individual. There are some solutions out there, but there are also, there's also some knee work to be done right now. Just putting yourself before the Lord and seeking His will as far as how you can carry yourself. How do you navigate? What can you do right now? And you never know how significant it might seem. Insignificant to you to spend that time focusing in that area, like you're not making the moves, you're not doing the big thing, you're not you're not chipping away at that mountain, but you just don't see it. In the spirit realm, things are shifting and changing, and by being obedient and available and present, you just really don't know how much of a difference that you make.
And you don't know what the end will be. You don't know the end result. I mean, we're walking through this journey, and the choices and the decisions that you make, and the people that you engage with in conversation about these problems and issues, you don't know that person that you just had the phone conversation with and you talked to has a direct link to the mayor, or has, space with the mayor and serves on the mayor's, faith council, so to speak. And you just had a phone conversation. And it was like, okay, what is, what's the mayor's vision, for the district? What is she seeing? And this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm feeling. And you didn't realize that the person you just talked to has the mayor's ear. So being, like you said, available, is key to that. Continuing to be open to the voice of God as He leads and directs you, and as you take those steps, there are going to be connections, there are going to be persons, and you never know who God has already put in your pathway to collaborate or join with to do something, that is going to have an impact on being able to mentor youth and young adults who are still first generation preparing to go to college, or those who have no clue as to what they want to do when they get out of high school. Okay, what are my options? Because my parents are going to put me out. Literally, I have had students who say, my parents are going to put me out as soon as graduation is over. What do I do? Or, the children, who are, don't have the resources, and you see them come to school, and how, you partner with the organization to make sure that they've got snacks and things that they can do, a bag that they can take with them over the weekend, that has snacks. It has things that they can heat up in the microwave, or they can, oatmeal, cereal, those individual, just to carry them through the weekend until they get back to school. So there are things that we may think are small, but they yet have an impact.
Yes.
And just and it can be just through happen just from a conversation. It can happen just from an email. Yesterday, I got tagged in a Facebook post about authors. The person who originally posted the link sent me a message saying, "Okay, I want to get you on my calendar so we can have a conversation, so we can talk about this process of marketing and getting our works out there and all those kinds of things." But that happened because somebody tagged me on a post, nonetheless. So don't negate or despise the small things, because you never know how God has laid this thing out or how he's mapped, your course out of direction. So, yeah.
Come on now, sis. Now. I didn't know I needed this conversation this morning. I didn't know I needed it. So I just hope those that are listening to it, you guys are tuning in. Whether you're watching the video or you're following us on any of your podcast platforms, please just chime in and reaffirm my sister, because she just shared a lot of wisdom, and really you demonstrate a lot of spiritual maturity. So I appreciate that. I don't want to let you go without giving you your flowers there. And you've always been that way, and we've been connected for years. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Look, anytime. Look, I still got that gumbo recipe, and it still hits.
Let's see. We gotta keep that under wraps. You're like one of few. You're my sister, so I gave you. I don't give that to everybody. Well, listen. As we look to wrap up, what would you say your final thoughts to our audience would be?
Oh, final thoughts. We're in 2023, new season, new year. We're able to, one, start fresh, start new, get focused on some things. We can, yes, this happened yesterday. This happened in 22, but this is a new year. So I have the opportunity to rebrand, reinvent, to try again, to dream again, to launch again. So there's an opportunity for the new. Okay. So we're starting with the opportunity for the new with the new year. Then plan something for yourself. Okay. Put that self-care as a part of your plan, as you write all the goals, you write your resolutions, but within that, there needs to be some self-care. And for me, that self-care includes some rest, it includes some exercise, it includes being properly hydrated, but it includes my faith, feeding my faith. And how do you feed your faith? Is it through reading? Is it through journaling? Is it through being outdoors in nature? Is it through having a quiet time where you're perfectly, still, where you can hear the voice of God in the stillness? So that piece, is something that, you can do, be, mindful of that self-care. And then when you've got a plan in place and you've written the vision down, and now, you got a plan. Okay. Then we got to execute. Right. So we're going to execute. We're going to put that. So it goes from just being a dream, just being an idea, just being a bullet point to, okay, how am I going to make this thing happen? Are there some forms I need to complete to submit? Are there some people that I need to talk to that can coach me through, okay, fine-tuning my resume, somebody who can review my application for my nonprofit, or who can review my bylaws and SOPs to make sure everything is as it should be. Is there a group that I can go to that can support me in my efforts for establishing a business? I can go to the Chamber of Commerce. Can I go to there's a small business association that might have classes online or courses available at the community center for free or even limited cost that I can join into, that's going to help me through that process. So you've got some things to do. We're not going to let it sit on the shelf and gather dust, as some things do. My shelves behind me have been dusted, so we don't want to have books on the shelves or things on the shelf for years and years and years and years and years. Oh, I've had this idea for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Now it's time to take that idea off the shelf. It's time to take that idea from the paper, from the planner, from the journal, from the calendar, and actually do something about it. I did work for Nike part-time when I first started teaching. So that thing, that just do it, rings in my mind, and I keep it in front of me when I'm getting ready to do something. And then, the scriptures that are action oriented, scriptures that be ye doers and not hearers only. So that means you've got to do something. You can't just sit. You've got to move. So let's put our faith into action. Let's put all of our plans and goals into action. And then we're going to benefit from the fruit of it. Not just you yourself, but you're going to see, your family benefit. You're going to see, colleagues benefit from what you're doing. You're going to see, your community benefit from what you're doing, because you put yourself out there. You created this lane. You made space, and you put something that was divinely implanted in you, and let it be, launched into the earth, launched into the atmosphere. And now, we plant seeds. You expect something to grow and pop up. If I, plant roses, I expect to see a rose bush. If I plant an apple seed, I want there to be a tree. I want to have a whole orchard. So we're going to see the fruit of our labors, but we got to do the work. So, we're going to see the new. We have a vision for the new coming into the year. We're going to take care of ourselves, and, we're going to map that plan out, but then we're going to do something about it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, if you afforded yourself the privilege to reach the 38-minute mark of this podcast, let me tell you, we just received an edification, a spiritual download, I would say a prophetic declaration from my sister, Monica Leith, that should bless you, that will bless you as we continue to move into the year 2023. I can't think of a better way to kick off the year than with an interview with my sister. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for joining another episode of the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. I believe we have done that today, and with the help of our sister. Thank you guys for joining us. We're out.